so far this year, 2024. Now, all through the year, troops were confronted by different threats in 5 active theaters across the country. And these theaters are the Northeast Theater, the Northwest, the North Central, the South-South, and the Southeast Theater, which are scattered all around our country. Indeed, since January till date, the Northeast Theater has been characterized by activities of the Boko Haram and the ISWAP terrorists, as well as elements of armed militia. Troops, in the course of their operations, have denied the terrorists the ability to carry out major offensives. And in doing so, the terrorists have been limited to low-level skirmishes and attacks, which are mostly on soft targets. Similarly, in the Northwest Theater, terrorists and violent extremists targeted troops and other security agencies, as well as vulnerable communities in the course of the year. Some of the terrorists encountered in the Northwest are transnational jihadists that have entered into a marriage of convenience with local terrorists to steal the nation's natural resources. In the North Central Theater, troops experienced activities of violent extremists that mostly targeted soft targets. These violent extremists were engineered by issues related to farmer-header clashes, land grabbing, and ethnic nationality issues. In the Southeast Theater, that theater was marred by the activities of the indigenous people of Biafra and their Eastern Security Network terror group, while in the South-South Theater, that theater was marred mainly by the activities of crude oil theft. Troops confronted all these threats across the theaters by adopting a high level of alert, as well as an increased state of readiness to protect the country from further terrorist aggression. Accordingly, the terrorists were forced to pay a price for every act of aggression against citizens and for every escalation of the security situation. The stance of troops culminated in over 500 terrorist leaders and commanders wiped off the battlefield so far this year, 2024. Now, since the beginning of the year, troops' operations across the various theaters has culminated in over 8,000 terrorists neutralized and over 11,000 of them arrested, even as we rescued over 6,376 hostages. What this means is that we delivered damage to the terrorist fighting capabilities as well as their military capabilities. And this is partly the reason they go after soft targets, being the cowards that they are. Furthermore, troops recovered over 8,216 weapons in the course of the year, and over 211,000 ammunition in the course of operations in the year. This means that we have significantly delivered damage to the terrorist military capabilities, and this partly explains why we have more of them surrendering, with surrendering corridors now activated in the North Central. Since the beginning of the year, troops have denied the oil theft of an estimated sum of about 58 billion naira since January. The breakdown of our recoveries are as follows. We recovered over 4,000 AK-47 rifles. We recovered over 1,000 locally fabricated guns, over 730 den guns, and over 240 pump-action guns, among other items recovered in the course of the year. Additionally, over 53 million liters of stolen crude oil was recovered in the course of the year, and over 9 million liters of illegally refined AGO, popularly known as diesel, was recovered. Over 90,000 liters of DPK, popularly known as kerosene, and over 150,000 liters of PMS, otherwise known as petrol, was recovered, among other items, during the year. Having said that, I will take us through our various operations, beginning with the Northeast, where we have Operation Hadinkai. The troops of Operation Hadinkai fought intensively from January to date against the terrorists. The troops invaded terrorist hideouts, their strongholds and enclaves, to flush out terrorists and destroy them wherever they were and are hibernating. Additionally, offensive operations were conducted to known terrorist safe havens, such as the Sambisa Forest, the Timbuktu Triangle, as well as the Tumbuks, which is along the Lake Chad Basin. Several terrorist leaders, combatants, and their families surrendered as a result of the intensity of troops operations. Many of the terrorists on the wanted lists have been taken off the battlefield, and sooner than later, we will be putting out a new poster or banner of wanted terrorists, being that those that are on the banner, the current banner, have been taken out, and we need to take out their replacements. Overall, from January to date, troops of Operation Hadinkai neutralized 918 terrorists, arrested 2,285 of them, and rescued 1,496 kidnapped hostages in the course of the year so far. Additionally, troops recorded over 15,950 surrendered terrorists, and these are combatants and their families. This demonstrates how the motivations of the terrorists is getting lower and lower each passing day. The summary of recovered items include 1,682 AK-47 rifles, 392 fabricated rifles, over 400 den guns, and over 360 assorted ammunition, among others. Now to the North Central, where we have Operation Safe Haven. The troops of Operation Safe Haven have significantly restored peace in the plateau. And don't quote me, You can quote the governor of Plateau State. Those were his words. Now, though the year commenced on the wrong footing in the Plateau, the troops have boxed in the terrorists and limited their activities to low-level skirmishes from time to time. Troops have neutralized several of the terrorists and violent extremists, their leaders, their commanders, and their combatants. The troops of Operation Safe Haven also have continued to dismantle the support network for the terrorists and violent extremists operating in the Plateau in the course of their operations. These operations have led to several arrests of notorious gun runners, kidnappers, informants, as well as terrorist collaborators. Overall, troops of Operation Safe Haven neutralized 411 violent extremists in the course of the year, arrested over 1,800, and rescued over 920 kidnapped hostages in the course of their operations this year. The troops of Operation Safe Haven also recovered 238 AK-47 rifles, over 300 fabricated guns, and over 295 assorted ammunition and ammo, among others. Still in the North Central, let's take a peek into Operation Wild Stroke. The troops of Operation Wild Stroke sustained their operations all through the year in Benue, Taraba, and Nasarawa states. The troops' operations significantly delivered damages to the terrorist fighting capabilities as well as their military capabilities. The troops of Operation Wild Stroke did not relent, but hunted down the terrorists, flushed them out, and striking them in areas in which they were hibernating. The troops also arrested several notorious gun runners, kidnappers, and terrorist collaborators. Now, in the course of the year, I have been churning out their names, and so you have those details already. The terrorists were denied the ability to carry out major offensives to harm citizens. Rather, they carried out low-level skirmishes on soft targets. This explains why we're having several attacks on isolated communities, which we are working on how to prevent in future. Overall, the troops of Operation Wild Stroke neutralized 583 terrorists, arrested 916 of them, and rescued 649 kidnapped hostages in the course of their operations so far this year. The troops also recovered 291 AK-47 rifles, over 300 assorted ammunition and arms, and over 12,000 rounds of 7.62 millimeter special ammunition, among others. Let's now move to the Northwest, where we have Operation Hadirin Daji. The troops of Operation Hadirin Daji have since January to date continued to create a conducive and stable security environment for agricultural activities and other forms of socio-economic activities in the following states: Kaduna, Katsina, Kebbi, Sokoto, and Zamfara in the Northwest, as well as Niger State in the North Central. The troops of Operation Hadirin Daji, in the course of their operations, boxed in the terrorists, thereby cutting off their resupply routes and chains. The troops also attacked the center of gravity of these terrorists. And this has led to several notable terrorist leaders, commanders, and combatants neutralized. Overall, since the beginning of the year till date, the troops of Operation Hadirin Daji neutralized over 2,646 terrorists, arrested over 1,654 of them, and rescued over 2,339 kidnapped hostages in the course of the year so far. Additionally, the troops of Operation Hadirin Daji recovered 1,341 AK-47 rifles, 424 fabricated guns, and over 486 assorted ammunition, among others. Still in the Northwest is Operation Wild Punch. The troops of Operation Wild Punch have since January till date delivered significant damage to the terrorist military and fighting capabilities. The troops' onslaught has cost the terrorists motivation to get lower and lower each passing day. This has culminated in the surrendering now witnessed in the North Central Operational Theater. Overall, troops of Operation Wild Punch neutralized 732 terrorists, arrested 1,842 suspects, and rescued 569 kidnapped hostages in the course of their operation so far this year. The troops also recovered 357 AK-47 rifles, over 289 assorted arms, and over 12,300 rounds of 7.62 millimeter special ammunition, among others. Now to the South-South, where the troops of Operation Delta Save, since January till date, have maintained the momentum against the activities of crude oil theft. The troops have continued to find and destroy illegal refining sites, as well as arrest the perpetrators of crude oil theft. The rejigging of the operation significantly spiked the nation's daily crude oil production to over 1.7 million barrels per day, from less than 1.3 million barrels per day just some few months ago. Nevertheless, troops are not resting on their oars. We are urging for more transparency by the IOCs. We are urging for accurate metering. We are working towards ensuring cooperation of stakeholders in the sector, as well as cooperation from the local communities. Troops are also monitoring the prosecution of culprits perpetrating crude oil theft in order to ensure that justice is delivered. Now, since the beginning of the year to date, the troops of Operation Delta Save have neutralized 78 terrorists, arrested over 2,176 persons involved in crude oil theft, and rescued 73 kidnapped hostages. Troops also denied the oil theft of over 53 million liters of crude oil and over 9 million liters of AGO and over 90 1,000 liters of DPK, as well as over 150,000 liters of PMS. Furthermore, troops recovered 524 assorted weapons, over 12,000 assorted ammunition. They destroyed 1,880 wooden boats, as well as over 2,400 illegal refining sites were destroyed, among other things recovered and destroyed. Now to the southeast, where we have Operation Udoka. The troops of Operation Udoka sustained the momentum in finding, flushing out, and destroying the indigenous people of Biafra and their Eastern Security Network terror group members at locations in which they are hibernating. Additionally, troops worked assiduously to curb crude oil theft in that operational theater, while addressing other security issues such as ritual killings. Our operations intercepted and arrested several indigenous people of Biafra and their Eastern Security Network terror group members. Additionally, many terrorist collaborators, gun runners, and informants were arrested in the course of our operations. Overall, since January to date, the troops of Operation Udoka neutralized Additionally, the troops of Operation Udoka recovered 144 AK-47 rifles, 240 pump-action guns, and over 8,000 rounds of 7.62 millimeter special ammo, among others. Now, in summary, I would say that the military is keeping up the pressure through ongoing operations in the 5 active theaters across the country. Through these operations, we are increasingly creating conditions in which terrorists cannot carry out acts of terror or harm our citizens. On the whole, as a force, we are constantly examining what we can do better. We are also examining what we could have done better in the face of the challenging security environment. Nevertheless, it is clear that things are on an upward trajectory, and we are in a better place today than at any previous time. Thank you very much. On the 29th of November, the air component of Operation F and subsequently engaged. One structures destroyed. That's it, okay? That's it. Terrorists.
Last week I write for Nigerian people. Despite the persistent claim that using military of high government